jersey. Alex Botelho, local Portuguese surfer, in the yellow jersey, and in the green jersey, out of the UK, Great Britain, one of the pioneers of this wave, Andrew Cotton. Kaipuguera, along with former big wave world champ Peter Mell, for the call. And let's just reflect on what happened in that first heat, Peter.
Well, the local boy found 3 solid waves and took a very comfortable win. And then you see Gabriel Villaran, and it looks like he got a rider up.
Yeah, this happened during the break here, and it looks like it's the first wave, just getting a score on the board. Our current rankings leader, Grant Twiggy Baker, 2.5 for that opening wave. And Peter, take another look at it.
Well, this is one of the first rights we've seen, you know, like with an actual critical drop. So Grant Baker is by far one of the high competitors, highly competitive. And he knows how important to get that first initial wave right out of the gates. And he's done that. He's going to utilize the ski. As you see, look at that beautiful technique. He gets so low to his board. He engages the rail. Not a lot of wall there, but gets the drop. Shows control with the kick out and earns a 2.5 right out of the gates. And he's actually picking up another score. So that's actually his second wave.
Well, perhaps Grant Twiggy Baker from Durban, South Africa, 43 years of age. He sees some opportunity because the guy right behind him on the big wave rankings, Greg Long, has just been put out of competition. So this is a tremendous opportunity for Grant Baker in the blue jersey, but also a tremendous opportunity for Pedro Collado in the black jersey, who's currently 3rd on the rankings right now.
Yeah, and he made both finals. Pedro Collado was able to get into both of them. The Puerto Escondido Challenge, and then also in the Piahi Challenge. You know, he's been a surprise. You know, he came on the tour via the category of Performer of the Year in the Big Wave Awards. You know, he had that massive wave that was right there in contention with Aaron Gold as far as one of the biggest the same day that Aaron Gold got his big wave at Piahi. And that really put him on the map. And he became one of the performers. He actually was there for one of those massive swells at Puerto Escondido where Mark Healy got that huge wave. Pedro also had some big waves from that day. So that, again, was where his performance was coming from. And that's why we saw him get himself on tour.
Alex Botelho taking off in the yellow jersey, skipping down a big drop and kicks out for a completion there. Our Portuguese competitor, Pete.
And a lot of experience for Alex. You know, he's been out here on all the paddle swells. He works with all of those group here in water safety, and very comfortable. As you see him scatter underneath that wave, looks like he was able to get through it.
And up and riding, that is Great Britain's Andrew Cotton.
So Andrew Cotton getting a quick wave. So again, we're seeing these guys put themselves in position to get waves, which is good. You know, I want to see these guys compete. I want to see them be able to get the opportunities, and they've been doing that. You see, but they pay the price. You know, they get caught. And you can see this is a late drop there. Was able to hang on for Alex Botelho. Again, a ton of experience on his backhand. You know, you see lots of photos. If you see photos of Nazaré, you're going to see Alex has a ton. And that's a lot of experience. And every time it breaks with good conditions, he's out here.
Well, Pete, as we look into this, let's take another look here of Andrew Cotton.
You know, he's been looking at that North Peak. There's some big rights over there. He knows this break because he tows a lot too. So that's the one thing, is that you start to see the ocean and you read the ocean over and over. You kind of know where these sets and what kind of wave you want to catch. So, you know, you'd examine the lineup and go, okay, where can I put myself to catch the best opportunity of the wave that I want to ride? And again, there's 3 different peaks, but that middle peak, you know, is definitely going to be the biggest.
Pretty incredible to me that these guys not really feeling this out. Everyone's just charging and going for it. We saw that heat number 1 with some aggressive Bravo, and same thing's happening here. Of course, we see names like Cotton and Botelho in the mix here. Let's talk a little bit about how you get to this event and being an invitee to the Nazaré Challenge.
Well, you've got different categories in which you can qualify. Generally, the top 10 from the rankings of the previous season, just like you would have on the championship tour, they're going to make the cut. And And they've the top 10 make the cut, and then what will happen, though, is that you'll get some of that top 10 who are not able to compete. And we had 4 of the top 10 not make it here. And so what happens at that point is you go down the rankings. Number 11, we had Ian Walsh. Ian Walsh is unfortunately doing his movie tour and could not make it. And then that's why Ramon Navarro sits at number 12 in the rankings. He slides in. Gabriel Villaran, he's at 13, so he was able to get in. We also had Makua pull out because of his rib. Mark Healy not make it here. And Josh Kerr, for obvious reasons, surfing the Pipeline Pro. So, 4 of those guys not getting there. It actually went all the way down to number 19 on the rankings. Trevor Carlson was also on that rankings. He was the number 1 alternate for Performer of the Year invitees, but he actually got in through his rankings. And then you have Koa Rothman at number 19. That's how low it went. Rusty Long was there, almost an opportunity, but he's in California, had way too much work to do. So Koa Rothman says, yeah, I'm going to raise my hand, and here he is in this heat. He also, I said, has the Performers of the Year. Shane Dorian was in that Performer of the Year, not able to get here and not utilize that opportunity. So, again, Jamie Mitchell takes a spot there. Pedro Collado took a spot there. He was actually the 2nd alternate for Performer of the Year, but since Trevor Carlson got in through his rankings, that's how Pedro Collado moved up. And a guy who's in contention for the title this year, who's made 2 finals as well, Will Scuden. He actually got one of the wild cards. Nick Lamb's one of our top competitors. Andrew Cotton, local. Botello, local. So there you go.
So those are our event wild cards with with Cotton and Botello, and we have another event wild card making a way in, winning that first heat. Joao's down with Giggs. Let's hear about the guinea pig heat, the first heat. Giggs.
Yeah, thanks, Kaipo and Pete. Down here with winner of that first heat, Zhao. Nobody knew who you were before this. Well, a few people did, but now the whole world's getting to see you. How are you feeling?
It feels amazing, yeah. Super stoked for Praia do Norte and Nazaré to have a stop on the tour. I was back on tour. One of my best results was actually when Peter Mel was world champion. So that was one of, and just to be part of that world and being on the Big Wave World Tour at that time was really special. And, meeting all the boys was a really special moment in time. The inception of the tour with Gary and all the ideals. And now to see it being part of the WSL family is amazing. And for Portugal to really receive this stop and just being amazing waves. We were really worried that it might be too small or too borderline if it was too big. There were a couple of days in November that were probably too big. It's never too big. It's the future. That's where we're heading toward. But anyways, it's just a little bit tricky. And I think all the boys were just super pressed and just keep cranking. The swell's going to keep up throughout the day, and it's just trying to conserve a bit of energy and just, stay warm and just simple things. But so stoked. One of the waves of my life and just a dream come true.
All right, let's just talk about conditions out there, because you've braved it. You've got that heat win out in the water itself. Just tell us a couple of the things that are going on amongst the 6 of you out there.
It's a really broad area, so there's a lot going on. There's some of the peaks a little bit more focused on the south end, and then there's Peak 3. We just call it Peak 3. It doesn't really have a name yet. And that one was having a couple of rides. I saw Gabriel catch, I believe, a ride, and Kiali were kind of hanging out a little bit there. The wave isn't as steep, but it's big. It's really tall. So it's kind of like you're just trying to feel not to get completely smashed by a set, but at the same time, you have to put yourself in position to try to catch one, and that means that you're throwing those dice. And that's the beauty of big wave surfing. It's those little things, the way you're paddling, the way you're kind of like trying to hold your ground, and just be in that right spot.
Okay, thanks, Shao. Go get warm. You're into the semifinals. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Giggs, and congratulations to Zhao. We're going to see him in semifinal number 1. And I love the takeaway there. Heart of a lion, Pete, which Zhao was saying, it's never too big.
Okay. Well, I guess when it gets to that point, you grab a tow rope. Because there is a point where, it becomes unsafe. I mean, that's the thing. It's you can sit out the back and you can wait it out, as we see Nick Von Rupp, who was an alternate who pulled in. Cole Christensen was one of the wild cards invited to this event, and he was committed to be here, but unfortunately his bags didn't show up in Utah in time, and last night we found out that information, and so Nick Von Rump, who was the first alternate, slides in, and so it's a great opportunity for him.
Wow, we're going to see a different side of Nick Von Rump. We know him from the qualifying series. We know of him from his competitive and progressive surfing. We've seen him in great barrels, but now we're going to see the big wave side of Nick Von Rump coming up.
And he's really coming to his own, as you see. Also, Billy Kemper, winner of the Piahi Challenge.
Well, we know what this guy can do. Two-time winner of the Piahi Challenge, Billy Kemper, coming up in heat number 3. Looks like he's got a brand new leash dangling from the back of his board there, still in the packaging. Billy was on our flight here over from Hawaii, and just had a great attitude. Oh,
yeah, no, he's, I mean, his commitment to his training and his health is second to none. I mean, he is on the plane. He has weighed out meals with protein, calories, fats. Each meal is directed to what time he's going to eat it, how much it weighs, and literally a nutritionist has been, and he's got an app that tells him exactly the amount of calories he fills his body with a day. He actually will scientifically load himself up with energy before the event. So he literally is doing this travel nutritional act that pumps him up, fills his body with the energy. He did it for the Piahi Challenge at home when he did that. And he said that he was, like you look in the final, he was almost peak performance during the final, which usually when you get to that final, back in the day, I remember being in those finals, you're so drained, you don't even want to touch these waves because it's so, you've just been blasted through the morning heats. I mean, that's why I think today's an example is that you've got this cold weather that'll zap your energy. It takes away, so you have to fuel yourself with the right amount of hydration, the right amount of proteins, carbohydrates. And he talks about carbohydrates being what he likes to have. He eats a lot of fruit, a lot of dried fruits for that carbohydrate energy. Those are sugars in there, and they're simple sugars, so you can just blast through them. Your body uses them up, and you stay energized.
Well, we've always known surfers have been very athletic, but the evolution of this athleticism and the science of it is really coming into play. And yeah, like you said, Billy Kemper, he's just in peak position and quite a specimen, and he's also got the mental capacity to push himself over the ledge in giant waves like this.
Hyper competitive. He wants to win this title just as much as Grant Baker. So he's gonna commit himself. He sees the opportunity now. The fact that we saw Greg Long not passing through his heat, and that's huge. And I think that opens up that door for him to be able to get himself an opportunity to win that title. I mean, you separate yourself if, say something happens to Grant, he's not able to get through a heat, Pedro not able to get through a heat, all of a sudden that door is wide open for a guy like Billy.
Yeah, well, 29 minutes, 40 seconds counting back on the Tag Heuer clock. And Grant Baker, he's put himself in a good position. He's currently first place in this heat with a 13.67 score line. So Twiggy looking good. But opportunity maybe for Billy if Pedro Collado, who's out there in the black jersey, doesn't come upon a wave. The time's ticking down, and Pedro still scoreless. No waves ridden for Collado, no waves ridden for Rothman, no waves ridden for Nick Lamb out there. Ocean's taking a little bit of a break. Those guys are still outside of this, so we'll see if they move in at all to try to get some scores.
That's that risk. I mean, you talked about what Joao had said, that you got to move in and commit yourself to get those waves, but you run the risk of taking that 25-footer on the noggin. And really, that roll of the dice, as he called it, you have to be able to just put yourself in there, and you got to risk taking those ones on the head if you don't catch that wave and don't put yourself in that position. It's part of the deal. He said it's part of it, but you know what? It's actually more of a part of the deal here at Nazaré because you're going to get blasted. It's just part of surfing here. That's why it's one of the most challenging waves on the planet.
As we see on your screen in the red jersey, that is Nick Lamb on the paddle. Nick Lamb from Santa Cruz, your hometown. You know quite a bit about this young man.
Well, yeah, he grew up in Santa Cruz, surfing in Santa Cruz, part of the Steamer Lane crew, surfing Mavericks. That's where he really honed his skills in getting that desire to ride big waves. But then now lives in Venice, actually moved down to Southern California, put himself down there for opportunities, and it's worked out well for him. He's been able to get himself some sponsorship deals and extra work. And, he comes up to Santa Cruz all the time, and as soon as there's a swell, he's jumping on the road. It's a nice little quick 5 hours, and you're back in the hometown. You know, so he still stays fairly connected. But again, Nick's one of those guys very, very serious about wanting to win titles and be part of this tour for a long period of time. Takes his training very seriously. So you would expect him to find a way, but I think a lot of things what's happening too in these early stages of these heats is just trying to line them up, find that spot. It's you know, you're kind of first time surfing the swell, first time feeling the vibe. Where do you put yourself? You know, maybe you haven't surfed here this year yet, so you've got to kind of take that adjustment time. In 45 minutes, it just happens so quickly. Usually you can be out here, you'd be stoked to ride all day long and ride 3 waves, you know, but you got to catch it in one heat.
Yeah, pretty incredible of what these guys are able to do as we see the water safety buzzing around out there, keeping a watchful eye of all of our competitors. The guys are trying to reposition themselves right now, maybe because we're coming out of this peak high tide, and then the tide is going to be dropping throughout the rest of the day today into the afternoon, right about after the 1 o'clock hour, Pete. So as the water drains here and the tide recedes, what are we expecting to see?
Well, it's going to open up the lineup even more. What happens is those bigger waves are going to break further out, so it's going to be even more of a bigger playing field than we're seeing right now. At those higher tides, it generally moves into the inside and it'll focus a little bit more. But it might give a little bit more opportunity because those waves will be able to peak up quicker, and so you can maybe catch them better.
Well, we're going to be back with the back half of this round 1, heat number 2 at the Nazaré Challenge here. Beautiful Portugal. It's an epic morning, big waves, lots of action in the water. Stick around, don't go anywhere, because we got more big wave surfing coming your way. There's a lot of energy. Welcome back to the Nazaré Challenge. We're here, second heat of the morning, with Grant Baker, Alex Botello, Andrew Cotton, Nick Lamb, Cole Rothman, and Pedro Collado. During the break, we saw a wave getting ridden, and this is last of Grant Twiggy Baker, Pete.
Yeah, and again, he's looking at the rides off that main peak, which he's been able to find a couple rides. Again, kicks out nice and early to make sure he stays on that outside, doesn't have to commit to the inside, especially when you are going right. You're actually riding towards the rocks and towards the cliff. You don't want to go too far in there, because then all of a sudden it puts yourself at risk mainly, but also it takes the water safety at risk. You know, you have a boat to get capsized, and it'll get blown into the rocks, and you don't want that to happen.
Yeah, certainly one of the hazards, not just the big waves and the hold downs, is that point there and that rock formation that just sticks right out, and it seems like a lot of times the waves can almost pull you into that rock. And we've heard over and over again of some surfers that have been put in some very hazardous situations on those rocks.
Literally right in front of those rocks. Antonio Silva, who will be coming up in one of the next heats, he's actually in heat number 3.
Here we go, dropping in and trying to control himself through there. That is Pedro Collado, currently 3rd in the rankings, the young Brazilian, part of the new generation of big wave riders.
Absolutely. You know, Pedro Collado, you know, again, had that experience of Puerto Escondido, but here he is on the backhand finding a little right. Some control there. Didn't have quite that critical drop that you would have liked to see, you know, to get those bigger points, but it's a wave, it's under his belt, and every time that you finally get your first wave, all of a sudden the butterflies settle, you know, and I'll say, okay, now I get it. I can get it now. I can go out and put myself in a little more dangerous situation when you've already got yourself picked up a wave. It gets, again, just the butterflies away.
So a momentum builder potentially for Collado. He's going to get on the board. A 3.21 or better will get him into third place and advancing position right now. Judges taking a look at it, reviewing it, and have not assigned a number yet to that opening ride, but we'll report it to you as soon as it does drop in. You can see Grant Baker out in the league, followed by local boy Alex Botello in second place, and one of the pioneers out here at Nazaré, Andrew Cotton, currently in third place in the green jersey. 22 minutes and 20 seconds counting down on our Tag Heuer clock.
Don't crack under pressure.
Don't crack under pressure, and I have not seen any
There's a lot of pressure out there
big wave riders crack. They are taking the pressure,
no problem,
and they're running with it.
That is so true. So true, you know, and I think that part of some of the ways that they're able to deal with this is knowing that the Big Wave Tour safety team, you've got an amazing crew, and as you can see, that it's been working. They're not making any hazards to the lineup with wake. They've been able to be right on the surfers and getting them picked up quickly. So look, you can see the guys have moved away from that main peak and actually moved up the beach into a little bit of a different zone. It's smoother over there. You can see the tide kind of sucking out. It's actually created a bit of a rip in that main peak section. So they've moved themselves way up to peak number 3, they call it, which again has a big area. It's just not quite as steep a drop.
So the shifty beach break coming into play, wedges up and down the beach, but monstrous wedges they are. And here's a shot of our safety team that have been put together, some of the finest PWC operators in the entire world, and a lot of them with a lot of life-saving background as well.
Lifeguards and a ton of more than anything. I think the biggest part of being part of this team is the amount of experience you have on the boats. You know, these are tools that are some of the most amazing tools in the business for doing this kind of stuff. I mean, literally, you can ride in between waves, pick up surfers. And the other part is that you've got these 10-6 surfboards that you have to deal with on the pickups. As you see, that's the tough part for the water safety team, is being able to get those guys on the sleds in the timely fashion between waves.
With those big boards, well, scores dropped for that last of black. Pedro Collado, the young Brazilian charger, a 4.13, and that was enough to put Collado into third place and advancing position behind Alex Botello and Grant Twiggy Baker. So he got his work done for him. And so remember, hashtag Nazaré Challenge. We want to know how you're watching this inaugural and historic event. The Nazaré Challenge, and there we go. Look at all the way back at Pipeline. That's how they're watching it
it's a late
at the
night.
Pipe House.
That's a late night. I mean, it's almost midnight there in Hawaii after a big day of competition.
Thanks for staying up, guys. Up and riding. That's going to be the first ride of Nick Lamb on a long stretching left-hander, and Lamb controlling the board, kicking out, and successfully riding that wave.
And there again, those nerves, those butterflies, everything that happens when you try to get your first wave. He just connected with it. Now he'll feel that relief.
Twiggy right behind him, our current heat leader, taking a right-hander. Nice controlled bottom turn, even working in a cutback there, and a big open face, and Twiggy kicks out, looking to get rid of that 3.33 and build his lead even more up on the field in his heat number 2.
Well, you know, he's riding a brand new board. You know, these were designed for Nazaré from Pucas. The guys there at Twig Surfboards and working with the group at Pucas Adur, who brought all these boards down here. As you watch this, again, he sees these nice, big, smooth rights, engaging the bottom turn. That's that control. That's that maneuvers. Wasn't a big wave, but, you know, showing a bit of control, like I said. That's very helpful. He's trying to improve on a 3.33. Here's Nick Lamb on the left. Again, getting rid of those nerves. See, a lot of guys will do that on their backhand, grab that rail for stability. It's such a big board that it feels like sometimes you'll go over bumps and they'll just get away from you, so it helps you to stabilize yourself, almost like a tripod.
And Twiggy taking another look at it. As you mentioned, those quiver of Pukas boards that Grant Twiggy Baker just got here at Nazaré. A 9-foot, a 9.6, a 10-foot, and a 10.6. All lined up.
It's probably on the 10.6 or the 10.0.
Paddling in, Collado behind Andrew Cotton. Andrew Cotton's going to give way to Pedro Collado, and Pedro's going to get his second score in. And is going to maintain that third place position. Probably jump into second place with that.
Well, we see that was riding two surfers on the same wave. I mean, there is a risk of an interference happening there. We talked about it last night at the surfer meeting. I know that a lot of times it's been very lenient, but we're having situations now where we don't want to see that happening. It's dangerous, you know, and if there's a hindrance to scoring potential there, which there may have been, we'll see what the judges say.
Well, that's going to be a judge's call, but Collado perhaps had to change his line, and if he did have to change his line, that would have been a hindrance.
Yeah, I mean, so it's a judge's call to see what they say. I mean, it wasn't like there was a dangerous situation there, and but again, it's up to the judges. There's 5 of them up there. They'll make that call.
So interferences are deemed by the judges whether you hinder the scoring potential. Of course, priority to the wave is going to be the guy who's closest to the peak.
Yeah, and that was definitely Pedro Collado. As you see, surfer with inside position has unconditional right-of-way for the entire ride. That was definitely a left. Interference may be called if the surfer's scoring potential is hindered by the other surfer, which Cotton was on the outside, so he would have had to stay out of Pedro's way. So did he get into the line there? That's, again, up to the judges and what they think and what they'll call. And we'll see it come onto the scoreboard if it is indeed. You watch here. So, again, the breaking wave's to the left there, and so right-of-way goes to black. And then you see there's a bit of a line there cut a little bit. I mean, Cotton's, he's going down the line as fast as he can. He kicks out really quickly, so maybe the fact that he kicked out quickly might help this cause, but again, it's a judge's call.
That's right. So we do not have the official call on that. That was not officially interference. We do not have that information. Scores are slowly dropping, and then we can give you an assessment of the situation in the water as we see Grant Twiggy Baker there taking a look. Andrew Cotton waiting for that call, just in the water. And looks like he's having a little bit of a moment there to just absorb everything.
Well, I mean, your adrenaline's pumping. There's nerves. There's excitement. I mean, it's an experience that is second to none, big wave riding, and then let alone putting a spotlight on it with cameras, the crowd on the cliffs, this jersey, the opportunity. I mean, it just adds all of it to this heightened level that you either perform or sometimes it can hinder you. You're just that stress that comes with it. So you're going to see today who that ultimate waterman is going to be.
So, Peter, I saw Andrew Cotton. He was blowing into his hands, perhaps warming his hands. Can you give us an idea of what the water temperature that we're dealing with today?
Well, it's about 16, I guess, 17 degrees, and then that really translates to about 62, 63, which is not super cold, but actually I think the biggest thing is the wind. It's actually really cold when you see the wind blowing off the cold land, cool land. It's been abnormally chilly on the land in the mornings and in the evenings with all the winds, and a lot of the winds are coming out of the north, which is, you can go more north of here, it's going to be a little bit colder, so you get that. Same thing happens on the west coast. The same thing happens in Hawaii. When you have those north winds blow, generally the temperatures will drop, and that's what we've been having here is a lot of those north winds. Oh,
I get cold in Hawaii on north winds, but this morning I felt like I was in Antarctica. It was...
No, it's not even close to Antarctica.
Freezing.
It's a little chilly.
I'm a tropical guy, man.
You got that thin Hawaiian blood. I have it too. I spent almost a month and a half over there. I mean, I get it.
Okay, well, scores in for Collado at 2.23. Scores in for Andrew Cotton at 1.67. Doesn't look like any interference is called on that wave. So situation in the water, Grant Baker in first place, Pedro Collado in second place, and the local boy, Alex Botello, currently in third place in advancing position. And here we got our scoring scale. Of course, all the surfers are looking for at least a 4 to 5.9. That would just be an average wave. Of course, you want to be in that 6 to 7.9 range. 8 to 10 points. That's the excellent range, and that's where you want to be. Top wave gets doubled, along with your second highest score. Those two waves total, and that gives you a heat total top 3 out of each of these heats moving on into the next round.
Well, it's, again, very similar to what you see. Each wave is scored from a 0 to 10 scale, just like you'd have on the junior tour, the women's tour, men's championship tour. That's how scoring has been done for competitive surfing for a long time. The major difference here on the big wave tour is the fact that your best wave is doubled. You know, and it can, yep, well, there you go. We see it. Cotton, unfortunately, has been deemed with interference.
Okay, so it took a while for that to drop, and now the judges did make their call, so Andrew Cotton does have that interference. What happens in that situation?
Well, if you look at the score line, what will happen is that Andrew Cotton will be only scored with a 0 for that score. So it becomes a 0 and only gets scored on that one wave.
So Cotton's lead is going to increase. However, looks like he's still there potentially. Here we go. Nick Lamb on a big drop. Pulls it off through that lump and bump, just dwarfed by the size of that wedging Nazaré wave, bringing it all the way through.
Oh, he's got an inside connection. See what he does with it.
Nick Lamb riding this all the way with great control, and he finally kicks out. Wow, Pete.
Well, I think that again, we're looking at the critical drops, right? That's really where big points come from. So we'll take a look at the replay here and see how steep that drop is. When you've got a nice big steep drop, that's what gets the judges excited. You know, especially on a much bigger wave. Again, he's moved to that south peak, and look at that drop. See, it's beautiful, big peak. It's wedging. Again, has a lot of control. As he bottom turns here, the wave flattens out, but he sees down the line. He's like, maybe I'll stay with this and get another section, which he does. You see it wedges down the line. He's going to utilize all of that scoring potential, which he does. Nice little critical section here, holds it a line, gets a bunch of speed, and stays with it. And, you know, that's actually going to put himself, as he looks into the judges, look at that peak, right in the zone. So this is going to be his best wave for sure. It's going to take him out of 5th place.
Yeah, Nick Lamb, 3.14 or better on this wave is going to get him into 3rd in advancing position. In my eyes, he did that and more.
Well, we'll see what the judges think. I mean, I did like the fact that his initial drop was right there, centralized in the main peak, which is a huge part of getting big scores.
Here we go. Tag Heuer, hashtag don't crack under pressure, and that's going to be one of the themes of today, is to not crack under the pressure of the Tag Heuer clock, not crack under the pressure of what the judges need, and not crack under the pressure of these giant wedges moving through here at Nazaré.
One of their main team riders, Kai Lenny, who will be coming up in heat number 3, one of the ambassadors of Tag Heuer. You know, what a athlete that man is, and good to see him. He does. He could be one of the top athletes in pretty much any style of sport.
So what's going on here? It looks like we have Abe Lerner, one of our ocean safety guys, bringing Koa Rothman into the beach. So we're going to take a look and see what happened out there. Watchful eye of Abe Lerner, former Seating County lifeguard there on the north shore of Oahu. Koa Rothman, of course, born and bred in Hawaii. So 2 friends there, and Abe bring him to the beach.
Might have gotten caught, and because it didn't look like he had a surfboard, so he doesn't have a board. He's trying to come in and find himself an extra board. I don't know if he's actually going to just call it a heat or if he's going to grab his board and get back out there. I mean, this is his first experience here in Nazaré. He surfed yesterday, so he's able to get a little bit of a experience.
But what a transition. I mean, this kid, he had to turn around 36 plus hours of flying just to get here from the north shore of Oahu.
He slept the whole way, dude. I was sitting right next to him. That kid was snoring. He had his hood on and his shirt over his head, and he was gone. I wish I could sleep like that.
Had to get a wetsuit. You know, he's not used to the wetsuits.
This is true.
And so that...
It'll sap your energy. The cold and the wetsuits are something that you have to get used to. You have to have experience in, and he doesn't have a ton of experience.
So here we go. This is what happened.
So he's underneath that one. He bails on this thing, and he just gets annihilated. And of course, the cord would have broken right there. And he is just getting smashed at this moment. So again, the energy just, I mean, you got cold water again. You've got the wave itself and what it does to you while you're underwater. The fact that you're holding your breath, so you're sapping all of your oxygen out of your body. That's why you get fatigued.
Oh, my goodness. And the cold water, to me, Peter, doesn't allow your lungs to pull in as much air as if you were in a warmer climate. It looks like Koa's going to take another look at it and get back out there. Yeah, 7 minutes and 19 seconds on the Tag Heuer watch. What did happen, though, during all of that rescue is that the score locked in for Nick Lamb, a 5.77. So that changed the situation. Nick Lamb now on the lead, followed by Grant Twiggy Baker and Pedro Collado. And here we go. Nick Lamb up and riding again, just gets blown off the top with that stiff offshore breeze, Pete.
And he was paddling into that one, and he probably could have given it a bit more to get in underneath it, because as soon as he stood up, that's when the weight shifted to the back of the board, and that's when the wave lifted the nose out. You know, paddling in those big winds like that, I mean, guys that have a ton of experience doing that, or those guys from Maui who surf Piahi all the time, they put in that extra experience dealing with the winds. I mean, Maui is just, I mean, all of their surfs are dealing with wind. And you can see those guys, they paddle down the face really far before they stand up.
Yeah, constantly windy there at Maui. But, Peter, let's take a look at what's transpired so far with a heat recap of this heat number 2.
A lot of waves ridden, but Twiggy got that early start, was able to get the 2.5 and the 3.3, and then backed it up with the 5.17, which was that one there. Pedro Collado, he's in third now with 2 waves. He's able to get that 4.13, which was this wave here, as he hangs on and then gets a backup of a 2.23. So he sits in that advancing position, but he's on that borderline. Alex Botello right behind him is looking for him. This was the interference from Cotton, unfortunately there. Just got in the way of Pedro Collado. That was that 2.23 for Collado. So now he's counting a 0 and a score line, but this is the best wave of the heat. The 5.77, this was what took Nick Lamb to the lead, which is with the #1 surfer and seed in this heat. He's finding his way back up to the top of the leaderboard, so looking good for Nick Lamb. See again, ton of speed he's carrying right here. Watch out as you see the wedge. And he looks at the judges, says, what?
Well, body language and confidence coming off of Nick Lamb, and rightfully so. He is looking very good with only 5 minutes counting down on the Tag Heuer clock. And a lot of stuff would happen to get Nick Lamb bumped right now. The man in the hot seat is Pedro Collado, the young Brazilian, currently in 3rd place in this heat. Local boy Alex Botello, one of the pioneers, Andrew Cotton, also right behind him. Both of those surfers off of the lead, but really it is yellow Alex Botello, who just needs a small score. A 1.49 or better will get Botello into 3rd place in advancing position, and he's got time, Pete.
Yeah, he does. But can he put himself in position? You see the tide starting to move around a bit. And it's weird. You watch the lineup, as you see from up top, this overview. You can see how the rip moves around us, too. I mean, that set went over to that first peak, as you see Ramon Navarro, which is his first time on this tour competing. Wasn't able to get in off the rankings for the Puerto Escondido Challenge. A local from Punta de Lobos. So he was able to get down here from Chile. Got the call up, again, number 12 in the rankings. So he was able to get in with the fact that in Piahi, we had all the top 10 competing there. No one wanted to give up their spots there. But here, some doors open for some athletes. And Ramon, you know, unfortunately, he did really well. Christian Morello was able to win that event down at Punta de Lobos, which gave him the opportunity in 2015 to get on tour. Whereas Ramon finished 2nd, but he didn't have a backup score, which means he finished just outside of that top 10 cut line. He really hasn't had an opportunity this season, so this is a big-time event for him. He's got to get himself into the finals if he's going to want to find his way into that top 8 next year. It's top 8 from the rankings next year, because we're going to try and get 2 surfers out of our QS series, which we haven't had any events there yet.
Well, Looks like the big scores have been coming on these left wedges, and that bodes well for someone like Ramon Navarro Goofyfoot. And so we're going to see him in the last heat of this round. Right now with 2 minutes, 50 seconds on the Tag Heuer clock.
No, we got another heat too.
The man in the hot seat is Alex Botelho.
Well, Alex is going to be trying to get the score. Pedro Collado, he needs to get himself a second score. You know, that 2.23 at this point, you want to better that so he can put himself in a much more comfortable position, maybe put himself over the top. I mean, crazy how Grant Baker was like all over it, but I think he moved way north. I mean, he's sitting at a whole separate peak that we have yet to be seen ridden. I mean, these guys are separated by 500, 600, 700 meters.
And it's crazy to see all of these rips that are developing and moving up and down this beach with this swell coming through here and pushing the water back out to sea.
Well, I mean, like you said, we watched that GoPro breakdown. And with that GoPro breakdown, you had Garrett McNamara talk about the canyon and how deep it is. It's 1,000 feet deep. And so the tide will be moved by that. You know, it actually pulls water through the canyon. And so you'll create these rips. And, you know, more than anything, these big waves moving in, it pushes that water in and it has to go back out some way.
Well, a great view, and you can see all the water moving on your screen. And I love the water cam angle here. Taking a dig. That was Cora Rothman taking a look at that one, unable to get into that wave. He's going to spin around and hope for a couple more opportunities behind that.
Well, they're on that way north peak again. So 4 of the competitors are way up there, including Grant Baker. And then on the wedge peak, you got Nick Lamb. He's like taking his experience. If we have a wave like this up in Santa Cruz, it's got a big cliff bounce like this. And it's just a gigantic version of it.
Well, we're in the last minute, and it looks like Grant Twiggy Baker's is going to be bringing this wave in, looking like he's advancing on into semifinal number 1, along with Nick Lamb and Pedro Collado. Our heat leader, Nick Lamb, on your screen, and he might take a jet ski ride in.
Well, you saw Grant Baker, again, he's trying to improve on a 3.33, and he caught a wave way up there on that north peak as you hear the horn. Woo. So that ends it.
So stick around. We're going to be back with heat number 3, round number 1 at the Nazaré Challenge. We'll be bringing in Giggs, Cilliers, and Paul Evans to make the call. Stick around.
We're making history here in Portugal. We trust that you're enjoying it with us. The first ever Nazaré Challenge. Gig Cilliers alongside Paul Evans. Paul Evans, you live here in the region. What are you making? You can hear I'm puffing, right? I ran from the competitors area to get up here. It's a big playing field. You're a local, yeah, you've traveled out to Portugal many times. We're showing the world's best what's going on here.
Yeah, well, it's been an incredible morning so far, Gigs. From that first light, we saw that first set kind of unload, and we're all kind of, wow. And then ever since then, the action in the water hadn't let us down at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Nick Lamb getting that victory, using his backhand again. We saw him do that at Jaws at the PI Challenge just a few weeks back. And, well, using that backhand again, he's got a victory at Ponta Galea back in 2014 on his backhand as well. And he will advance alongside Grant Baker. And Koa Rothman will get that advancing slot into the semi-finals. And, gee, how was that set that exploded on Koa Rothman late in that heat number 2?
Yeah, it's just so heavy. Seeing it from up here, you really kind of get an appreciation of the scale and the power. And obviously, it's like freezing cold this morning as well. There's so many sort of factors coming into play, and it's really heavy out there, Gigs.
All right, keep an eye on that man, Billy Kemper in red. He will be featuring now in heat number 3 at the Nazaré Challenge this morning. There's your playing field here. Big wedging waves coming out of the canyon, making for an incredible playing field here for the World Surf League's Big Wave Tour. And we'll have Billy Kemper taking on Christian Morello from Chile. Trevor Carlson out of Haleiwa, Hawaii will be in the white singlet. Kai Lenny out of Maui is in the black. Nick van Roop, you'll know a little bit about Nick van Roop, Portuguese surfer, he'll be in yellow.
Yeah, stoked to see Nicola get the call up. Cole Christensen couldn't make it, which is obviously a bummer for him. But great news for Nicola was that first alternate, and he gets the call up. There's also Antonio Silva from Portugal. So those two are actually from the same beach, Praia Grande, down there just outside of Lisbon. And yeah, really good to see those guys. Nicola, he dropped a really good clip about a month ago. Showed a couple of good drops from out here. I can't wait to see how he goes.
Yeah, Nick van Roop really owning the big wave scene here. Also a visitor to Ireland, surfing on those big lofty lefts there as well. And that's the amazing part about the European geography, is there are a ton of big wave spots, and we're only really starting to lift the lid off that now for the world to see.
Yeah, totally. And obviously with like the advances in technology and forecasting getting a lot better. So opening up those windows, you see an opportunity come in, jump on a flight. You know, it's a couple of hours to get around from Europe top to the bottom, and that's why we're seeing a lot of these guys make use of the whole coastline of Europe, the islands, the continent, all of it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's as you mentioned there, it's pretty quick to hop from country to country. Just a couple of hours flight will get you from Ireland all the way down to France and into Portugal. So it compresses it, and it really opens up the prospects and opportunities for big wave surfing in the future here. As we see a little look over the ledge there. Stiff offshore conditions, and when I say offshore, the actual breeze is probably only blowing about 5 to 6 knots, but these waves are like big warehouse walls. They're just moving in here. The amount of updraft up the face is really making it difficult. We saw how difficult it was for Nick Lamb to penetrate in that previous heat.
Yeah, and it was interesting listening to the commentary earlier, and the guys were saying about you don't want it to be kind of as big as it gets out here at all, which I guess is kind of unusual for a lot of big wave spots. You just want the biggest, kind of longest period, cleanest swell possible. Here, it's more like a window of opportunity for the paddlers. Obviously, it wants to be big, but not too big. So, yeah, it looks like kind of real good job on the call, and we've seen some real big bombs going down.
No, absolutely. All credit going out to the World Surf League for the homework that they have done in getting the right facts at the right times to put this Nazaré Challenge together. On screen, athlete crouching and coming through the section. Now, this is the northern part of the beach, and this is going to have a big squeeze on it. He's holding his line, and Billy Kemper is logging that first score on the board here. You see how he's traveling through. He's probably going to look for safety ski and a regroup on the inside. And that's going to be his strategy here. He'll use a complete reposition with the assist of the personal watercraft.
Yeah, well, he's coming into this event with the juice, isn't he? Obviously, that big win over in Jaws, making the Peahi, making it back-to-back wins at Peahi for Billy. So he'll be coming here with heaps of confidence, but totally different ball game out here. Ask a whole different set of questions this wave. And it is obviously a beach break, so pretty random. We talked about that wedge coming off the cliff, then we got that peak to the north where these guys are positioned, but so many factors into play. There isn't really a channel as such or anything really to line yourself up with, so you kind of got to roll the dice, Gigs.
Well, Paul, here's that replay of Billy Kemper. Of course, Kemper currently 4th on the Big Wave Tour rankings. What do you think he's thinking at this stage right here?
Well, he's kind of thinking, I'm going to bring this thing in and get myself a jet ski ride into safety, because yeah, he doesn't want to turn around and see something ugly and dark looming, bearing down on him. So he'll just bring that one through. Always good to get something under your belt. You don't want to be too selective. 45 minutes, not a whole lot of time in the context of big wave surfing.
Well, our surfer in white, Trevor Carlson, surviving that one as well. So smart moves here from the Hawaiians in this heat. Kemper and Carlson posting rides early.
Yeah, definitely. Just obviously there's going to be a bit of nerves. These guys are super experienced and they're finely tuned big wave athletes, but obviously still nerves associated, and just good to get something under your belt, get a feel for it. We like to use that classic feet in the wax, booties in the wax it would be today, but yeah, just getting a ride under their belt early. Don't want to be too selective. We've seen kind of different approaches as well this morning. We saw Jal Merced just catch a bunch of waves earlier, pretty dominant. Damien Hodgood in the next heat, he was a bit more selective, wasn't he? Just got that one absolute beauty. So you've got the scattergun approach, catch loads of waves, or be more selective.
Well, you're looking at a little bit of a water world scene here. This is typical of all of our big wave tour stops. On screen, Carlson moving back into the lineup now. Water chilly here in Portugal. It is winter, of course, and well, we're not far from the snow, just a few hours inland. And the North Atlantic producing a pulsing swell here. Fact of the matter is, and we spoke about the numbers there, Paul, it's a 2.5 meter swell at around 15 seconds, but it's the perfect angle to come down. Imagine a Grand Canyon running out into the sea, and that is how these waves travel down that canyon and really squeeze into the lineup here, completely amplifying the swell as we see a penetration here from Portugal's Van Roop. Nick holding that center of gravity. He's gonna get absolutely avalanched. Looks like the scenes out of a snowboard movie right there.
Yeah, he did get a bit to deal with there as he gets under that roll of whitewater, but a nice wave from Nick Clow. Also just wanted to get one under his belt. Nice little steep critical drop from him, and we've seen him do that so many times. He's just got that extra gear, that commitment, loves putting himself under the ledge and paying dividends then with a nice drop there for Nick Clow.
Well, what you're seeing here now, Nick Van Roop getting plucked out from the North Atlantic's literal avalanche here. You see the coordination here. There's a lot of experience here. There's your beach angle. Van Roop dragging that board along with him. Let's have a relook at this, Paul.
Yeah, here he goes. Commitment and just swoops in. Makes it look pretty easy. Kind of the wave, yeah, just kind of went like medium-sized on the shoulder. Didn't get a whole lot of drop. And then that whitewater does catch up with him. It's kind of interesting to think probably not too many guys doing the QS still, having to go at the primes and doing big wave world tour events. So kind of unique in that regard, Nick Clow, but certainly he's made a name for himself in the big waves and in the barrels.
Big, deep and steep here on the peak for Kai Lenny, the Maui surfer. You see the GoPro on the front of his board. We'll be watching that footage somewhere down the line on social media. But Kai Lenny off to a quick start as well, and here we go. Penetration from Antonio Silva. So the wildcard Portuguese also involved on the same peak here. So quick succession of rides gets this heat moving forward.
Yeah, nice and busy. And we talk about versatility, and Kai Lenny, there probably aren't many athletes in any sports that can do more things, more different things so well as that guy. The kite surfing, wind surfing, big wave surfing, the hydrofoils, incredible waterman. And just swooping off the bottom there, having a little look. And bringing this thing around, get a little bit of a kind of a second bowl. I think it's probably fair to say most of the points are all going to be associated with those big critical drops, but still just having a little look on the end, see if anything gets going. And this was Silva there. So Silva also from Praia Grande, that's Sintra, just outside of Lisbon, same beach as Nick Clow. And that's a big exposed open ocean beach break, cops a lot of swell, not nearly as much as this one kicks.
Yeah, Paul, well, that Praia Grande where both of our Portuguese athletes hail from, just around the corner from Guinshu, the site of many of the World Surf League's big events, including, of course, the Cascais Women's Pro. And, of course, every year we see the qualifying series arriving on the shores of Portugal as well. Of course, you mentioned Nick Van Roop. He is a QS warrior from the last few years. Not a great year this year, 146 on that qualifying series. But Nick Van Roop is a great Portuguese representative, and isn't it so good to see how much talent is pouring out of this incredible Portuguese coastline. You think of the geography of it, go all the way down to the Algarve, Marlin Lipke getting lots of waves down there. Then we move up the coast, Cascais. Now seeing Frederico Moraes making it onto the Samsung Galaxy Championship Tour. Of course, Vasco Ribeiro from that region just outside of Lisbon. Nick van Roop out here in the water, and Antonio Silva from the Praia Grande area. Then there's Ericeira to talk about. What about all those years where Tiago Perez represented so proudly the Portuguese flag on the world stage? And then we move up here to the Peniche and Nazaré area. But this Nazaré location around 40 kilometers north of Peniche, and it is just completely unique, and it stands out from the rest of the Portuguese coastline due to that underwater canyon just out the back there.
Yeah, crazy. It's been a pretty amazing few years for Portuguese surfing with the events, obviously, that got on, and like crowning world champion here this year. But this is kind of the icing on the cake. We've got a big wave paddle event at Nazaré, so we're making history. And just, you touched on that forecast earlier, 2.5 meters. Most beach breaks, you think it's 2.5 meters swell, it's offshore, it might be some 6-foot barrels. You know, maybe I'll get my step up 6'2" or something. And it's just unbelievable out here. Just the size and the scale of it, the power. Real incredible jewel in the crown. Places like this are unique. I don't know if there's anywhere else really even close to this anywhere in the world gigs.
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier. I did a little run up to the lighthouse here, and we did a little sideline report there. And, you know, I wasn't really convinced of Nazaré being what it is. You know, we'd seen some pictures come out. Yes, Garrett had done what he'd done. And, you know, we started seeing all the images. But I was always like, ho-hum, it looks the same. Now that I'm here, I'm absolutely gobsmacked. It is just an incredible location. It's hard to define and verbally how almost weird the ocean behaves here.
Yeah, well, this is a spooky town. I mean, there's a lot of history here, and it was known for fishing, obviously, like a lot of the towns on this coast, but it was pretty heavy, this place. I mean, the first kind of crew, one of the local guys was telling me they first came surfing here like in the early 80s, surfing on the other beach on the other side of the headland here, and they basically got chased out of the water, and by sort of the families of the fishermen, and a lot of people lost their lives here, and people thought that wasn't really cool. You know, this is like kind of a sacred place. This isn't something to go and have fun. It's amazing that in a generation how much that's changed.
Yeah, that's a point just to elaborate on, is that this is a pretty spooky part of the town. It's a wonderful seaside holiday town, but on the backside here, the exposed beach, it is kind of spooky. So isn't it amazing how surfing has just broken the whole perception of that? And, well, here we are making history with the Nazaré Challenge.
Yeah, we've got guys and women from all over the world based over here. Obviously, the whole scene that's grown up in the last few years. Of course, Garrett McMahon's on water patrol out there right now at the kind of heart of that, but Andrew Cotner's in the last heat. Those guys have been spending a lot of time down here, and it's really put this place on the map. Obviously, the mayor is stoked. And it's just beautiful to see Nazaré kind of really shining in the spotlight gigs.
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful day unfolding here. If you're just joining us, it is the Big Wave Tour, the World Surf League's 6 events around the world, a Southern Hemisphere chapter. Of course, a successful Porto Escondido Challenge being run back in June. No events running in either Peru or Chile. And then, of course, the Southern Hemisphere chapter closes down at the end of August, and then mid-October we open up the Northern Hemisphere waiting period, and that is encompassing 3 events on the schedule. We've already had the PIE Challenge successfully run. The man out in the water in the red, Billy Kemper, with back-to-back wins at that PIE Challenge, and he is out in the water looking now to possibly attack for a win, and maybe even points-wise, we could see if Todo Santos runs, Billy Kemper is zoning in on a possible world title.
Yeah, definitely. So things hotting up. And Pete Mel was saying earlier on commentary, could be potentially like the busiest year in terms of events on the Big Wave World Tour this year. So obviously just great to see the diversity of spots and obviously the different approaches. It's big wave surfing, but needs such a different approach to take on these various spots. There's next heat getting ready down there on the beach. Of course, these guys got their boards out in a boat out there, so they're not jumping in with their board. They're just going to get on a ski, get taken out to the deep water, grab their board, take it on.
So let's talk about those logistics. Athletes in the next heat getting ready: Carlos Burley, Roman Navarro, Jamie Mitchell, Will Scuden, Hugo Val, and Tom Butler will do battle in heat number 4. That's still around half an hour away. You see the Tag Heuer time clock top of screen. Still a little over 29 minutes to go. And what happens here, the athletes use the watercraft to get out the back. And, well, let's lock onto the main peak here. That's a big, steep drop for Christian Morello from Chile. And he's going to survive that implosion. We're seeing a lot of lefts being ridden here at Nazaré today. And he'll have made it around that corner. Of course, slightly obscured by our camera angle there. But Morello gets a second ride for the judges to consider. Looking at some numbers now, we're starting to see them come in from the panel. Billy Kemper's numbers there, a 6.66, so he would have been given a 3.33. It's then multiplied. And, well, only one wave at this stage for Billy Kemper. Kai Lenny, a much better number for the opener of Kai.
Oh, he didn't get much penetration there, did he? Saw him stand up on his board and just go the dive off. And didn't get a whole lot of penetration before he got mowed by that one. So, there he is. Wow, so he just took an absolute flogging down there, Morello. Of course, he'll be no stranger to big lefts. Hails from Punta Lobos in Chile.
So we're watching a recovery of an athlete here. You see the ski trying to access the athlete on the inside there.
He was underwater for a while there,
Yeah,
Giggs.
he took a pounding.
Yeah, he did. So here we go. He knifes in here, gets a nice steep drop, close to that critical section. And then he just kind of cranks off this bottom here. And it was the next wave. As he kicked out of that one, he was just gathering himself. He got back on his board, he was paddling. And then he stood up and dived off, but it didn't. Maybe he was a little bit late to it. He didn't get very deep, and he pretty much would have been maybe like just a foot or two underwater when that thing just landed on him. So good to see him back up and making his way to reset.
Well, watch the hammerings that our athletes take here. Of course, it is the Big Wave Tour. And our athletes are superbly fit. They trained. There's no fake shortcut to being part of this event or being part of the Big Wave Tour. Years of experience are often the story. A lot of veterans in the lineup, so to speak. Carlos Burley coming up next, 49 years of age. Of course, Grant Twiggy Baker, already 43 years young. And then we've got that whole crop of young guys. Paul, Kai, Lenny. What about the young Brazilian, Pedro
Gallardo, yeah.
Gallardo.
It's just like mirroring kind of what's happening on the CT in many ways. With you got the kind of the guys that have been around for a while, the big names, and then a whole like new crop of hungry young talent. And certainly with big wave surfing, the experience so important, Gigs, and that's why we see guys, or should we say, more experienced in years, and just using all that skill set. And of course, these days, so serious about fitness and training, and a lot of technology helping them too, just helping prolong those careers. And it's great to see such a spread there.
So the water, just a quick one to enlighten our viewers, the water on the inside is moving left to right on screen. Now that is the reverberation off the cliff. Then as you get out to the main peaks beyond, the water is moving the other way. So there is a north to south, which is right to left current out the back. But on the inside, yeah, you see a lot of turbulence. And this really makes it challenging for the personal watercraft to navigate. Here we go, entry. Down the face at Nazaré. It's a big one for Trevor Carlson. Oh, and he's in the pocket bowl. Holds the line. Composure is there. He's nabbing a second ride here. He'll try and travel as far as possible and get water safety recovery here. We lock onto Carlson here, trimming through the inside now. But what about that bowl on the outside for the big drop?
Beautiful, really nicely done. I love this touch there. Just the control was really nice, and I'm sure we're going to get a replay of that. But I like the way he just allowed himself to get high and get himself in the position for a little cover-up. Let's have a look at the replay here. So he gets in nice and early. Then you just see him accelerate down the face. He leans into that bottom turn. He just lets his line. He sees this coming, and he just kind of tucks in there. So nicely done. Beautiful controlled surfing there from the young Hawaiian. And they'll be pretty pleased with that one, Giggs.
That was wave number 2 for Trevor Carlson. Here's the beach angle. Gives you a true idea of wave face. In the bowl, drawing the line through the critical section. Center of gravity is low, Paul. Judges are going to be eating up that for a score.
Yeah, and obviously your instinct as you're kind of cranking off the bottom on a wave like that with all that speed is just kind of run away from the beast, and he did the opposite there and just kind of teased it and just allowed his line to get higher up, just get into that critical pocket. In no way cracking under pressure there. Trevor Carlson, a really good effort from him.
Well, Trevor, this last part of his wave, just a strategic run to reposition in the lineup. Carlson already a 2.33 for an opening score. Here we go, Billy Kemper, winner of our last event in Piahi. Looking for more here in Nazaré. See what kind of number comes from that. We'll pick up the full replay of that. Here's an overview. See the scale of things here in Portugal. This wave truly amplifies, and one of our athletes has been detonated there. Wow. Look at the drop for Kemper, though.
Yeah, and this one just kind of went a little bit soft here. It could have gone two ways, couldn't it, this one? And this one just kind of backed off for Billy here a little bit. And you could just saw as he kicked out, he was hoping to get something going. This peak that the guys have moved on to is slightly further to the north. And it maybe does have a bit of a longer inside bowley section, but just not that time for Billy. Didn't quite happen for him. But as you said, yeah, we saw that next one coming through. There's like weird closeout sections, like 20-foot closeout sections coming at you. Well, it's brutal.
Well, Paul, what I like about what Billy Kemper's done here is he's logged another score. It's not going to be a groundbreaking number, but he's going to add that second wave to his tally. Now, it is tricky out here, folks. We did see Greg Long go down in the first heat just by fact of not accessing enough waves. He left himself really late. So Billy Kemper doesn't want to make that mistake. Kemper through to the inside. Of course, now a two-time champion at the Piahi Challenge. Just a few weeks back, Billy Kemper. Great run there on the island of Maui, his home island. What a final, what an entertainment that was as well. Greg Long getting second and Twig getting third there, Grant Baker. A little over 22 minutes to go here at the inaugural Nazaré Challenge. We're going to take a quick break. Stay with us. It's Heat 3 from Portugal. Challenge, we're looking back at the action from Maui just now a few weeks ago. A great win for Billy Kemper. Back-to-back victories and a successful start to the Northern Hemisphere chapter of the Big Wave World Tour. Stoked to take out that Tag Heuer trophy. What a unique trophy. Love that.
How good does that feel as well? Back-to-back wins, two-time champion out there, and obviously coming here with a whole bunch of confidence as well, which is so important at this level. But beautiful images there from Piahi.
Loving it here in Portugal. Just under 20 minutes to go now on the Tag Heuer clock as you rejoin us here in competition. It is Heat 3. Round 1 here has 4 heats. Then our athletes progress 3, move through from each respective heat through to semi-finals. We are now in round 1, Heat 3. So stay with us here. On screen, the young Portuguese talent Nick van Roop from just down the coast. He's already amassed himself 2 waves, a 2.43 and a 2.8. His 2.8 is doubled and becomes the 5.6. There's your ticker bar top of screen showing you the proceedings. Trevor Carlson saw his wave just before the break, bringing in a great score of a 5.33, which doubles to the 10.66. You see his numbers there, 10.66 plus a 2.33 for Carlson. The Hawaiian in white is leading. Christian Morello from Chile in the blue is lying second. And then the super talented Kai Lenny found himself that drop with a little bit of a air under the bottom deck for a 3.9. That gets multiplied to a 7.8. And those are your top three positions here in round one, heat 3. Love this angle here. Look down on the arena that Nazaré is. Of course, we've got cameras from multiple angles here, and of course you saw that brief shot from out in the water there, Paul.
Yeah, no one going crazy on the scoreboard yet, so this one still a lot could happen in this one. We see some decent rides, but like nothing mental, so let's see what happens towards the end of this heat. But it's all up to play for here. We could see the guys from 4th to 6th, you know, move up, take those 3 spots, but yeah, we've just seen kind of everyone's caught 2 waves, so it's been kind of even. But there's not really any daylight between our 3 advancing surfers at the moment.
No, Kai Lenny, though, occupying that 3rd place in this heat thus far. Currently 8th on the Big Wave Tour rankings. Care of a 7th place finish at the inaugural Puerto Escondido Challenge. So he found that 7th place in Mexico, backed it up with the 9th at Piauí a few weeks back. And he finds himself in the top 10. Let's have a look at those rankings of our athletes. Grant Twig-Baker is out front, care of that silver coefficient and the win at the Mexican event. Backed himself up with a 3rd place in Piauí. Greg Long, now out of this event, we'll see him bumping down this leaderboard. Pedro Collado, the young Brazilian, has been mystifying us with results. And there's the back 10. This is now looking through 10 through 16. You see Josh Kerr there down at the bottom. Josh has not made it across here due to his commitments at the Banzai Pipeline, finishing off the Samsung Galaxy Championship Tour. Other familiar names there, Albie Leia, Rusty Long down in that one. They'll be looking for results if we get a Toda Santos unfold. We've still got 2 months of the Northern Hemisphere waiting period left, Paul.
Yeah, definitely. And, well, it was kind of a crazy winter last year. Wouldn't it be quite a tall order to see if it can live up to last winter, but certainly fingers crossed for it all to come together for a big swell-out Todos. But right now, of course, at Nazaré, we do have ideal conditions, and we are making history. This is the first ever Big Wave World Tour stop here, and there's not been a whole lot of paddling either in the past year gigs. Really, this is kind of mainly known for those like world record attempts, towing. And it's amazing to see the level of commitment these guys have to just kind of sit underneath it and just scratch over the ledge and drop down these things. Really impressive.
Absolutely. Of course, we do have 1 personal watercraft per athlete, so we have more than half a dozen jet skis out in the lineup. Depending from where you are in the world, you'll reference those watercraft with different lingos. Personal watercraft, jet skis, wave runners. All the different countries call them different things, but they do one very important thing, Paul, and that is save lives when these situations melt down to it. A little over 15 to go there. Tag Hua keeping us up to date with the clock. Trevor Carlson, currently 26th on the Big Wave Tour rankings, finds himself out front here in this heat, looking for a possible slot into the semi-finals here. Christian Morello, relatively quiet, but still finding himself in that 2nd place. He's from Ponta de Lobos, of course, Chile, one of our Big Wave Tour spots as well. Christian Morello sitting on that 10th spot on the runnings. Got a 13th in Mexico, a 7th, so just didn't make the finals at PR.